in Paul's letter to the Thessalonians, to the Jamaican people. Here's what he writes: anyone who would not work should not eat. We hear that some of you are unruly, not keeping busy, but acting like busybodies. We enjoin all such, and we urge them strongly in the Lord Jesus Christ to earn the food they eat by working quietly. You must never grow weary of doing what is right, sisters and brothers. And so we pray. Father, may everything we do begin with your inspiration and continue with your saving help. Let our work always find its origin in you, and through you reach completion. Amen. Good morning, Bridge Nation. Today is Monday. It's the 20th of January. We are the second week of the year, 2022. Welcome to EarlyRise. I'm Ronnie Thwaites. This is Bridge 99 FM. As you know, this is a space where we reflect and connect with you at home or in the diaspora. The idea is to bring people together. Chief Pearnel Charles will join me a little later. We spar, we dialogue, we enjoy the differences between us and the unity which binds us. How about that as a motif for the nation? Wouldn't that work for all of us in all situations? Doesn't mean that you suppress your views to please me or vice versa. What it means is that there's such a deep tissue of respect that we can share our differences and we can come to some consensus, or we can agree to differ in ways that doesn't set our teeth on edge or our hands towards violence and distrust. So that's the whole purpose of the bridge. Jamaicans and Jamaican lovers all over the world. Thanks for being part of the Bridge Nation then. It's 99.13579 on the FM dial. And remember, you can also watch our live stream at www.thebridge99fm.com wherever you are in the world. You can join our conversation too by calling our phone line. It's 876-676-4996. Or you can connect with us via WhatsApp at 876-551-5782. You know, I've been thinking, how does WhatsApp make money? Because it's all free. Somebody explained that to me one day, no? Anyway, it's very useful, isn't it? It links us all over the world. And it doesn't cost us what the telephone calls used to. It's playing havoc with the Universal Access Fund. You know, that money, that device where we used to collect money on overseas phone calls and put it to the use of extending internet and telecommunication facilities, especially to our students in Jamaica. Well, if you're using WhatsApp, then you don't contribute to that fund. I'd love to hear from you. We start off things this morning, as usual, by telling you what the weather is like in Jamaica. The Meteorological Service of Jamaica's forecast for today is this morning we can expect isolated showers across north central and eastern parishes. Otherwise, it'll be partly cloudy. This afternoon, isolated showers are expected across the hilly areas and sections of southern parishes. Otherwise, it will be partly cloudy. This morning, up in the mountains surrounding Kingston, I look always to see the stars and whether we can, in fact, expect a sunny day. This morning it's overcast, but you can still see beyond the clouds the outlines of the South Caribbean Sea, the ships passing into City Kingston. It's a beauty. Well, here we go. Lots of different items in the news over the weekend. Yeah, one of the things I just picked up on the CNN tracker here in the Bridge Studios is that 1/3 of American hospitals are already now overcrowded as a consequence of the increasing COVID pandemic. And in Jamaica, it's happening too. You need to watch it very carefully. And the precautions that we have got tired of taking are all the more essential at this time. Protect yourself and protect other people too. The front page of the Gleaner this morning has some uncertain information. Some of the doctors are saying that the government strategy to encourage vaccination is really not going to work. in these circumstances. Yes? Well, what is going to work, doctors? We'll follow up on that news as we go ahead. Again, switching from the local to the international, following Jamaican interests always. 19 people, including 9 children, killed in New York's, one of New York City's worst fires in the Bronx. I'd be surprised if some people we know or from us aren't involved in that too. There's so many Jamaicans in that area of New York City. Big apartment buildings, a great convenience living for many, essential in big cities, but prone to this kind of distress. Remember the great fire in London, the towers, many years ago. And then here we have now in the Bronx, gutted apartment buildings and so many people dying. Yeah, really distressing. Faulty electric heater is suggested as the cause of the fire. Who knows? And we just have to ask people to be careful to understand that when you live in these townhouses and apartment buildings, because that's becoming the big style and fashion in Jamaica now, isn't it? And you have to be careful of your appliances, careful of how you comport yourself, because even if it's a question of it's not only a question of your own safety, but whatever happens in your little cave is going to affect people close to you. You may not know them, you know. That's one of the perils of multiple apartment dwellings. But they're going to be affected too. The wall, the windows, the proximity is all going to have an effect on them. So this is a tragedy, and this is one in which we warn ourselves. We always draw from whatever experiences that are reported what it can mean to us in our situation. Well, here we go. If ever there could be a contrast from those remarks. Here we go. In Jamaica over the weekend, a lot had to do with the so-called crisis with the Maroons in Akompong. It's something I want to discuss with Pearnel when he comes, because really, we're making a mountain out of a molehill, you know, I feel. The Maroons have lived peaceably within their various communities across Jamaica for centuries. Okay, there is no question that they have formed a sovereign nation. They can't even relate cohesively among themselves. People in Portland, the ones in St. Elizabeth, the ones in St. James. Okay, but that's not it. Every cogent piece of analysis shows you that the treaty that they rely on it does not give them the status of a separated nation within Jamaica. They have their own cultural forms and practices, which insofar as they conform to the laws of Jamaica, are perfectly understandable and to be respected like any other. Okay? When you leave Akompong, I've been there. It's a wonderful place, yes? Full of vibes and culture, particularly on January the 6th. Okay, but when you go there, when you leave Akompong, you're on same Jamaican roads, you know. The school in Akompong is supported by the Jamaican taxpayer and the Maroon taxpayer too. So this bit about a state separate from the broader Jamaican state, that is not to be entertained and should not detain us. The question of respect within the communities, 4 different communities, is a different matter entirely. And I think that we're making some very, very bad mistakes. And I am troubled that should have occasioned a tragedy, the loss of a life over last weekend. Eh? So we'll have to talk more about that. And the very strange response of the Prime Minister yesterday to a question from one of the journalists from the Gleaner, a very respectable journalist, and the intemperate response. Well, we'll go into the details later, won't we? Then there's a question of crime and violence. It is as if we're as much tired of that, worse tired than we are about COVID, you know. Really boring, really troubling. Too much blood on the ground. Yeah, the zone of special operations has been declared in part of central Kingston. It's an area I know well. It's an area with a very singular political character. And it's an area of extreme poverty and need. Yeah. And so it's going to be worthwhile to assist in any way and to participate and see how the measures can be so exercised as to improve conditions in that area and therefore reduce the temptation to crime. There are some aspects of the remarks that were made in respect of that at the prayer breakfast last week, which we'll have to draw or comment later on in the program this morning. What's Chief Justice saying? That we should abandon jury trials in Jamaica? Your Lordship, what a great respect we have for you, but that can't happen. That is a time-honored privilege that we have, that we can be tried by a jury of our peers. And no, we're not saying that they're necessarily better than judges or the other way around, but that is a right that we don't have to give up for convenience sake. It is possible. It must be possible. We have to make it possible to get people of sound judgment to come and sit on juries. And it is a responsibility of all citizens when you're called for jury service. The first thing you don't do is to look on a way that you can get out of it. Yes? It can be inconvenient, it can be boring, it can interfere with your work, but nonetheless it is a civic duty. So there's a deeper question. Why some of us run away from our civic duty? Can tell me? Okay? Because it don't suit us. Yeah, but you can't live that way, You can't run a society on the basis of what is your own convenience. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you allow your rights to be trampled over. But most of us who are on the voters list, for example, if you're asked once in a while to serve on a jury for 3 weeks, that is the exercise of an obligation which underscores a right which you should want to maintain, and therefore it is extremely significant that you should do so. Yes? Very, very significant. Wow. COVID. I'm reading the tracker again that schools in Chicago have closed down as a result of rampant COVID, whereas in Atlanta, in the United States, public schools are reopening. And they're going to test teachers twice a week. What's happening? What's going to happen? We barely open. Prime Minister is, I think, wise. You can't possibly lock down again. And closing schools is part of the lockdown. And yet, we can be careful and judicious. When you're sick, you go home. Maybe those who are in close contact with you have to take some time off to see if they get sick. But we cannot afford to lose any more school. Surely it was a watershed moment last week when the government indicated for the first time at last, who said that? For the first time at last, that they recognize that the loss of face-to-face school time is the greatest crisis facing the country right now. And so, here the mayors of New York City and Chicago, we normally listen to the people up north, saying that the safest place for a child is to be in school. The safest place for a child is to be in school. Do we feel that here in Jamaica? Who is going to monitor the behavior on the trains that are going to start today, bringing the children to school from Linstead and from Spanish Town and then later from Old Harbour into that area as well? It's a great idea, but unfortunately our children are not very well disciplined. Many of them have lost the habits of discipline over the long absence from school, or they never had it anyway. And therefore, it is important, Bobby, Mr. Montague, Honourable, that you have persons on the train who are going to insist that the children sit down properly, that they observe safety protocols and health protocols. Otherwise, I don't even. It's sticking in my throat. But remember, Kendall. Yeah, 1957, 1st of September. We don't want any hiccup and any distress as a result of this interesting move. Okay, I'm just outlining the events, that we have to talk about. There was a very fine article yesterday in the Gleaner, written by our colleague, Professor Orville Taylor of the Department of the Social Sciences at the University of the West Indies. And he was making it quite clear, as others have, that we cannot continue to have this kind of upset and standoff and dispute at the University of the West Indies. And all thoughts seem to say that this committee, which Vice Chancellor Beckles has set up, purportedly to investigate the issue of his renewed contract, which is a fact, and the governance issues to do with the university, pitting the Chancellor, not a person I particularly favor, but he is a Chancellor, and the Vice Chancellor. Okay? Hey, disband that committee, quick time. Yeah? Presumptuous to ask a committee of the Vice Chancellors naming to report to him, the Vice Chancellor, about his superiors, the Council of the UE and the Chancellor. Unless we are misunderstanding something, and if we are, you better tell us quick time. That doesn't make sense. And therefore, it is likely to cause more trouble than the surge to find financial viability for the Mona campus particularly, but for the whole university. UE is not in a good financial position. It couldn't be. Most of the higher institutions of education in this country are in financial trouble because they haven't been able to have students for such a long time. Okay, no, government, the taxpayer pays a whole heap of money. So we have a right to say right now, listen, we don't want that. You fix up your internal business, but don't do it in a way that reduces public confidence in or distresses the idea of the university towards teaching, research, and public service. Okay? That's critical. I'm not judging who is right or wrong, but settle your business in a different way, please, sir. Because we can't afford that. You see, billions of dollars that is going on. As Orville Taylor pointed out, the University of the West Indies gets the most money of any one entity in the whole budget of Jamaica. You know that? Yes, it's the biggest allocation, single allocation for any agency, any institution in this country. And it should be if it is used well. And so many of us have benefited and continue to benefit and will need it if Jamaica is to develop, if our own personal aspirations are to be met by higher education. So right now we're a little unhappy about that, you see? Make sure that we settle that one. Disband the committee. Milton Samuda, do better than that. Unless we are misunderstanding what it is you're supposed to do. And the apparent cheekiness of your writing to the Chancellor and asking him questions and telling him how soon he must answer them. Oh, man. Milton, Canute Thompson, some of the others, calling your names in a friendly fashion this morning, but come off of that. It don't make sense. Again, not judging the case, but we're just saying, listen, this is inappropriate. The university is first among equals in higher education in Jamaica. It is the proximate source of educational advancement for the majority of our people, and we don't want to see one piece of slip in that regard. Okay? So let's be sure about that. I'm still brindling about the issue before we take the break. The issue about the bauxite license. And the paper yesterday says that this idea to chop down piece of the Bengal limestone mountain is now back on the agenda. We thought that it had been quietly shelved, as it should be, after the National Resource Conservation Authority had turned down the permit. The Prime Minister, who is in charge, says, no, it can go ahead. And then they set deadlines for a particular condition to be observed, without which the issue couldn't go ahead. So they missed the deadlines and now they tell us yesterday, according to the newspaper report, that the money finally paid, it is accepted out of time, and that now some kind of advancement is going to be made. Hey, what are you doing? You can't set rules and then you decide to change your own rules. And where you have considerable public distress about this issue, you are simply ignoring that? Really? That's not government. That's not the proper exercise of power. That is autocracy. We don't want that, please. Not going to have it. And then what do you make of the NRCA and these regulatory bodies? They say that this thing is this chopped down limestone on the Bengal property near Discovery Bay, near the Queens, what they call the Queens Highway, that this is environmentally unsound. And then you go overrule them. And these are the same people who are telling us that when they approved the mining license for Mr. Noranda in the parts of St. Anne, that they are exercising correct judgment. What you have done is to remove from them any scintilla of credibility. You understand? Hey, we're no fool, We can think too, and we follow things. And if you don't explain it, or if you do things that are clearly contradictory, then it is very, very embarrassing, not to us, but to you. So we don't hitch on the early rise, We call it straight. And we call it straight with a positive devotion to what is best for Jamaica. You know my position. All of that decimation of the environment is not a good investment. It is never corrected properly. Read some foolishness about the long history of the restoration of mined-out lands, and what is going to be done to prevent some of the craters from existing that Pearnel Charles speaks about. It is not so. Yes, the reverse is true, and therefore we're not going to allow that to happen again. And we support the sentiments of a person like Hugh Dixon, who was on this program last week or on the public eye. Well, it's coming up to 6:30. Let's take a break on the early rise. This is Bridge 99 FM, talking it straight, always with a view to the betterment of the levity of Jamaicans here and abroad. Honorable Pearnel Charles, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm sure you prayed for us over the weekend.
Well, I prayed for myself and for you and for all of us.
Oh,
yes, that's good. I hope. And what Thomas A. Kempe said: more things are wrought by prayer than this world dreams of, and I believe that. Yes. We were talking this morning, and in fact, sometimes God and I have a little tussle. He always wins, but how these terrible fires that have been taking place. I'm thinking of the one in England a few years ago. I'm thinking of this terrible thing in Bronx yesterday. Yes. Bronx, I'm sure you know. These high-rise buildings.
Well, I listened to you this morning.
Yes.
And I was frightened because, as you know, we are now in this high-rise building situation in Jamaica.
Yes.
And the high-rise buildings are in the hills. And I recall when I was minister, we discovered that we didn't have a fire truck that could put water higher than the second or third floor.
No, Pearnel, really.
And I'm saying to you now, when I listen to you, that we need to contain fires in a particular apartment if it gets there. But how the hell we're going to put it out if we don't have? I think that we have improved the ability of the fire trucks to go further than third floor.
Yes.
But I'm wondering if we have any that can go up to the fifth and sixth floors of what we're building all over the place. Yes. That if there is, and I pray that there isn't.
Yes.
But if there is going to be a fire.
No, but you have to protect against that kind of thing.
You have to prepare yourself for that.
Yeah.
Because anything is possible.
Yeah.
So is something that we need to examine.
We need to find out.
To ask whether or not we now have fire trucks that if there is a fire on the fifth or sixth floor of any of these,
rescue a person.
We can rescue a person.
Or put out a blaze.
Yes.
But Chief, tell me this. I'm just thinking by comparison. We clearly have machinery that can move cement and pour cement up on the 8th and the 9th floor.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm wondering, we ought to have a similar equipment or similar reach for fire prevention, but it's not certain. And well, if I were lending money, if I were a financier and lending money for a building or taking or giving a mortgage on a building with that kind of
You
height.
look out for that.
You should.
Yes,
But
because-
and then, sir, let me ask you this, and this leads to a bigger question. Surely, a local authority who has to pass business plans for all of these structures
Should have that as a priority.
has a condition, sir.
Yes.
Yes?
Well, actually, it's not the responsibility of the builder. The national situation, we have taken that over.
Yeah.
So the fire department
Yeah.
prepares
Yeah.
the fire trucks for the hotels and for everywhere.
Yes, sir. But,
so
if
you would definitely the fire. Hold on, the fire brigade is in the building plan meeting. You know.
yeah,
The fire
so
brigade.
they would have to. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that now, hearing you.
Yeah.
So therefore, they would have to have an input on this.
They have to say whether or not they're in a position to put out a fire, God forbid, on the 5th and 6th floor of these high-rise buildings in the hills.
Yeah. But
That's another place.
yeah. What about the hotels, sir?
Well, it started with the hotels.
Yeah.
And it was the hotels that brought to our
Sure.
attention.
New Kingston.
At New Kingston at that time. So something was done.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I'm not accusing.
No,
I'm
no. You're simply asking.
And from you said it was frightening.
Yes, yes.
That I had the experience
Yeah.
that we couldn't go further than the second or
second
third
floor,
floor.
okay.
Now, I know we had improved it, but can we now go to the last floor of these buildings that we
Yeah.
at the local level are approving
Yeah.
for building? And as you have said, the concrete man can push it up there, but
Yeah.
he can't push the water constantly.
No, no. And so, wow, we really have to be sure before we approve these structures, convenient as they are,
Yes.
that all of these things are taking place. And you know the other thought that comes to my mind? Fire services are paid for by property taxes.
Yes.
And therefore, there is an imperative to pay the property taxes so that the government can have the resources necessary to provide the kind of equipment you're talking about.
That is true.
Okay, so then let me press you. You always encourage me to go deeper because tell me, you served as minister of local government. How is it practical? Indeed, sir, how is it moral for us to continue to charge property tax based on the unimproved value of property when in fact the services that are required by people who improve their property, whether to build high-rise or any other building, are so much more expensive than the man who has a piece of open land, but he's charged the same rate? How that makes sense, Pearnel?
Well, the truth is this, that it's a question that all of us have asked.
Oh.
And there have been answers that come about that what rate would we charge, who would we charge, and who would be able to pay. Because, well, there are actually no unimproved. There are hardly any unimproved, no. But those properties that have been proved, they are still being charged at the unimproved rate.
Yeah.
So, and that rate has not actually moved.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think they have improved. They have
Very
increased
little.
the rate,
Very little.
maybe very little. But some people say they still can't even pay that.
No, they don't want to pay it, sir, because they don't rate the services and they don't realize that there's a connectivity between, what is it now, a waste disposal, property tax, street lighting, that comes, fire services, waste disposal, and street lighting, which comes out of that. And if you don't pay the property tax, yes, it's a problem I used to experience in the inner city where I represented.
Yes,
Because
and I heard that the minister, Mackenzie, stating how much the government had to pay for back money
for street lighting.
For street lighting.
Of course, billions.
Billions. They have not been paid.
No, but then that.
And then the one that you can always know there is a stolen light because it never turned off.
No.
Day and night.
Day and night.
It's on.
Yes,
somebody put up that so they don't have no street light. Put up a street light.
And the other thing too is that there's no pressure to use your property, despite the Land Utilization and Development Act of, 1964, the idle land legislation, as it's called, because there's no cost to you. So I can have a piece of place sitting down. I have no pressure to improve it at all. I can sit down, speculate, and do nothing with it. Yes?
That's not completely so. properties that are used for agriculture and otherwise pay half the tax. Properties that are not used have to pay full tax.
It's supposed to.
Well, if you don't, the non-socialist government.
My little research taught me, Mr. Charles,
Yes.
that the last time anyone was ever taken to court or punished for
Non-payment of taxes.
under the Quit Rents Act, yes,
Yes.
was 1919. Not even you and I, sir, as elderly as we are, were born in those days.
19 who?
1919, 1919, over 100 years ago.
I'm not quite sure.
Oh, yes?
You mean taken to court
Yes,
for not
sir.
paying taxes?
Yeah, and punished for it.
And punished for it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well,
Or
in
the
other
la-
words, when they're taking, they find the money and
Well,
pay.
the provision, as you know, allows for non-payment for the land eventually to be encumbered and to be
Yes,
held.
yes.
That is never done. Therefore, the penalties are not realistic.
Yes.
And I believe this is what helps, not the only cause, but this is what helps to cause urban decline, because people can left their property and do nothing for it. For years and years, I've experienced that in central Kingston. You can't find the owner. The owner feels no pressure to do anything about their property.
And other people who have no connection, no title ownership,
Yes, sir.
that capture it until they send a lawyer come get a man to throw you out on the street and you complain out till they put you out of your house.
Yeah, yeah, and where one day I'll tell you more. Where some of us, because they have occupied the lands for a long period of time,
Yes.
and the law allows, we apply for titles for them.
I think that there was an amendment somewhere which say if you occupy and pay the tax.
You have to pay the tax to make the application.
For what?
You can get the
7 or
title.
12 years.
12 years.
12 years, then you can get the title.
Indeed.
And a lot of people have
It's
done
done
that.
right now. Majority of applications for titles fall under that rubric.
Yeah.
No, but then that is because we do not have. That's a default way of doing it.
Yeah.
What we need to do is to be really serious about land reform. And by the way, there's one element in it that I'd like your views on. That provision where if I occupy your land upwards of 12 years undisturbed, okay, and pay up the taxes, okay, etc., I can apply to be made the owner.
Yes.
Extinguishing your rights.
Yes.
If you, no, you wouldn't, but I might. If I go on government land, it's not 12 years, it's 60 years before.
60?
60, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Well, what's the difference between the ownership there?
Yes, sir. That's the difference.
Who owns what?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's called crown lands. You know about the crown, Mr. Charles? Queen Elizabeth is your queen, Mr. Charles?
Yes. No. Queen Elizabeth is our queen. Yours and mine.
You can have her. all Charles is going to be your king.
Oh, man. No. I guess we will.
That will be particularly opposite. Charles is the king of Charles.
Yes, but even if we become independent, we are going
to tease him.
No, but we are going to be member of the
Commonwealth.
Commonwealth.
It's a different arrangement.
But she's still the head of the Commonwealth.
Of course, she's the head of the Commonwealth, but it's the difference between a visiting relationship and a marriage.
Not why you're hot this morning, bud. You set up for me this morning.
No, but I'm bridge listeners all over the world. I'm really looking at this.
Why?
I'm assuming that this Mr. Charles is a royalist. But can you imagine the ironies when King Charles becomes the king of Mr. Charles?
Can you imagine? I will walk around and say, "Be careful, boy. My brother is king."
One of the greatest gifts of God to the Jamaican people is that we can laugh with each other,
Well, I tell you, I
without
don't know.
a sense of humor, we would bust.
I don't know who. Well, I know the Lord knows that there's a time for soberness, so we can cry. A lot of people get eased by crying,
Yeah, man. It's a wonderful release.
And
We're
we
going
can
to talk
laugh.
about that now.
We can laugh. And my mom said, we can't even grunt.
Grunt.
You know what that means?
Of course, when pressure pipe or bus, pressure bus pipe. No, sir, Mr. Charles, talking about weeping, the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Mr. Holness, has been taken to task since we last met on the EarlyRise on the bridge, that he broke down modestly at the prayer breakfast last week about the issue of crime. And it has been suggested you would have seen it in the weekend press, that by some police officers, previous people, that he's soft, he's on the defensive, he doesn't have a plan, and therefore he's breaking down. What do you think about that?
I think he cried?
Yes, his voice broke.
Yeah, but let me say this
emotionally moved.
Let me tell you something. I'm amazed to see people criticizing the Prime Minister for whether crying or breaking down. When you consider, take these two fellows that come to look for their mother, and they kill the two of them.
Yes.
Take a little girl.
No.
I mean, if you have a heart, you should not have tears. You should have a bleeding heart.
Well,
not a tearing eye.
Well, I don't mind. Have both the bleeding heart and the tearing eye. I couldn't fault him for that. I couldn't.
People are criticizing him.
Yeah, but I understand that. But I have a criticism of him.
Yes.
Yes, not that.
Yes.
Not that. I understand his humanity.
Yes.
And I expect that he, in the high office he occupies, will represent the most sensitive heart and expression about something as brutal as these murders.
Not only that, but continuous.
Clearly.
And to who?
But wait now, sir.
Yes.
What the Prime Minister went on to say, which I am anxious for your comment on, is that he says, I have tried my best. And it's a complex problem. And everywhere I turn, meaning about the states of emergency, there are people who oppose me.
Yes.
And I am forced to wonder if they are supportive of criminals. Yes? Now, who is he talking about, sir?
I'm not sure it's you.
But let me tell you, I oppose the state of emergency being used as a crime-fighting measure on constitutional grounds, which I have the right to do, yes? And even if I were wrong, I have the freedom of expression to do so. And thirdly, to do so, yes, Prime Minister is out of order to suggest that I am supporting criminals.
No, well, let us look at this thing.
That is a grab a man the wrong of what he said, not weeping.
Let us examine this.
Okay.
You don't have to tell a criminal you're supporting him, But if you do something that he gets away with it, he's going to claim.
No, but that is...
But let us look at...
But that's a false premise.
Let us examine...
Yes, I'm examining.
...the state of emergency. Where the police, not the politician, the commissioner and the major general say to the government through the Prime Minister, we need this to order to control crime.
But why are you arguing this? Because I agree that there needs to be a state of
you agree, but
emergency.
not everybody. So let me go through the point.
But
I'm coming to your point.
Okay.
And when it comes to Parliament, and the Prime Minister say, the commissioner representing the police force, the Major General representing the military, who is out there night and day trying to control these criminals and this criminal act.
But nobody...
They have asked us to give them a hand under the state of emergency.
I don't know.
And we say no.
No, I don't know that.
Ronnie, when you vote against the state of emergency, that's what you say.
No, sir. What you're saying is that when you say that measure, which constitutionally is entrenched for a limited period, when you say that is going to go on and on and on, that's a different matter, one. And secondly, the element of the state of emergency that I find repugnant on moral grounds as well as legal grounds, yes, is where you can take a person in, you or me. You, in fact, were the sufferer of that.
Yes.
You personally.
Yes.
And you do not have to be brought before a court.
No. Ronnie, I will vote and ask you to vote for me. That is wrong.
Well,
listen.
So
I spent the longest time in detention,
Yes.
I was picked up on the 4th day, and I never came out until last day. There was nobody in detention who was picked up before me who came out with me.
So why would you want that to be the case to anybody else? No, answer me that.
No statement was taken from me.
Yes,
I was
sir.
never taken to a court.
Yes, sir.
Right? There was a commissioner set up. I wasn't charged. There was no charge, no statement. Them just said, the boy stay there.
Yes. So,
Well, the boy stay there and take exercise and live.
When in fact the successors of the political tendency that you have given your life to ask for that to be normalized for all Jamaicans, I say that is wrong.
No. Well, not you alone.
So Prime Minister Holness should never have gone on to say what he said about that, because that is an assault on the rights and on the Constitution, and he is sworn to defend that Constitution. And those who disagree with the state of emergency as being virtually the only, or certainly the normalized means of fighting crime, are not traitors. They are not disloyal, and they don't support criminals.
No, but hold on, Ronnie. They say they do so in the name of the Constitution. They say when they vote against giving the police and the military the authority to operate under a state of emergency, limited.
Limited to what?
It's not for it's a 3 months or 2 months.
No,
ago.
but then every time it comes up, what do you do?
Then you have to go back and ask for it.
And then the same argument arises.
But hold on.
And
you need to examine whether or not
isn't the Prime
the
Minister
last 3 months
on
was
record?
done anything in order to give 3 months more.
No, hold on, sir. That is what the Prime Minister is in fact saying, and other members of the government, is that don't tell me about what happened in the last 3 months. Yes, provided we consider this, the police officers, the same ones who you say come forward, we say that this will be helpful to save life. Yes?
Yes.
You must vote for it. That's that. Look here. What went on in Nazi Germany? Yes, was entirely lawful according to that.
Yes.
Entirely lawful.
Yes.
What went on in your own detention, sir? Yes. I'm old enough to remember was there. Yes. That was entirely sanctioned by law. Yes?
And you weren't support of it.
I was then, and I repent that. Shouldn't have been. Should never have been done that way. If in fact a person has to be on suspicion to be.
Could I disturb it here?
Yes.
If the present state of emergency picks up the wildest criminal and did not have a provision to put him before either the Constitutional Committee or the court.
No, court.
I will not support that. Because I have suffered that.
Okay.
And I will, hold on. Well, it's not only because I've suffered that. I believe morally, legally, and otherwise, should be politically too, that if you are picked up, you are innocent until you are before either the court or a commission set up to do that. That's my position.
I would be. I'm happy to adopt your position, sir. But that is not what is implied by what the Prime Minister says, and he must not say that because we oppose him, it is likely that we are in favor of criminals.
Well,
come on now. Why are you defending that after what you just said?
That is what I told you is mashing up the place.
Well, Prime Minister politics mashing up the place.
Well, hold on, Ronnie. When the PNP said I'm not going, is that not politics?
When
the PNP say we're not going with you,
it may well be.
And then go out and say they want to lock you up. That's not politics.
No, but pardon me. The PNP is being accused, of having to take a political price for paying a political price for saying that. Whether it is politics or not, my view, political decisions, there's nothing wrong with that. Political decisions, when they are based on principle, are important. And it is wrong to impute treachery on somebody else when you don't have the evidence for that.
I will agree with you, but I want you to agree with me that the Jamaican politics gives them that hold.
And that,
if you vote, if you vote against it,
you and I must reject that.
Well, you know why? I was in Parliament when the Commissioner of Police and his team asked for 3 more weeks. Say, give us 3 more weeks and we will finish a job that we are doing. And the PNP said no and voted out.
I don't remember that.
You don't?
No. But even if it were so,
Yes.
even if it were so, and I have no...
And that is why...
No, but you look here. You can't... The arbiter of my rights
Yes.
as a citizen, yes, cannot be the remit of the commissioner of police. If he has an initiative role, he has the power of arrest. Every ordinary constable has that power, derivative of him. What I am saying is, if you lock me up, yes, then you must take me before an independent tribunal.
The Constitution make a provision
and
for
if
that.
you and
Must satisfy the Constitution.
no, and the state of emergency suspends that. And when you suspend that indefinitely, you get the abuse that one Pearnel P. Charles suffered. And I am not prepared for that to be the case. And when the leader of the country implies that opposing that suspension...
Implies, it mean he didn't say so?
No, he said...
Or you're implying from what he said that what he means?
No, I can almost repeat what I saw. Well, I will, yes. Okay, if you signal to me. We have to go to a break. But when he says that that he's forced to wonder in the midst of his tears whether these people who are opposing him at every time, yes, are supporting criminals, Pearnel, that's wrong. This is Early Rise on the Bridge 99. We'll soon come back. I want to move on, but
before you move on, I want to accept and disagree.
Yeah.
On the same point, if it's possible.
Sure.
Most of the things that the PNP does in opposition to what the government wants to do is in search of support for the PNP.
So what?
Hold on now. Most of the things that the JLP does, for example, extending the state of emergency and the request of the police and the request of the military, and the PNP oppose it, they are going to say, you oppose what the police want, and police wanted it to prevent criminal, so your opposition supports the criminal out there.
First of all, it won't stop the criminal. We know that.
Oh, no,
Okay?
no, you can't say that. They're able to catch some criminals, so it stops some.
Let us even acknowledge that. So the Prime Minister says that if you're standing in his way and it's so complex, he's made to wonder in the midst of his emotional distress if you are in favor of the criminals. Yes, and in the next breath, the same gentleman says, I quote him, that the country must now be unified. You must be kidding.
No, well,
What? No, come on, Pearnel. Come on, Pearnel.
That must be the objective.
But how can they?
Is that we agree that that's the objective?
When he wipes off whatever proportion of people, probably half, yes, that have a reservation, perhaps just say the kind of reservation that I have about the state of emergency, and then he's saying, "Oh, we must be unified." How can I find any unity with him?
Yeah, we're looking at it that way.
Oh, come on, man.
No, but looking at it that way.
But that's the only way to look at it.
No, that's not the only way.
What? I must swallow my spit and go on with the state of emergency, sir?
Well,
and have people like Pearnel P. Charles taken into custody, and have like the other people who came before the judge in Jamaica a year and a half ago, whose case is still pending, yes, and kept there, no charge, no statement, no nothing, but their liberty taken away, and that is the standard of crime fighting in Jamaica. You must be kidding.
Yeah, but you still can't use the one incident of me in the 1960s.
No, it wasn't.
To brand the whole PNP, including you, as being wicked.
No, I'm not doing that. I'm saying I'm speaking to a principle. The liberty of the subject is the first principle of governance.
Yes.
Yes. And if you and we have a constitution for a purpose, and we must stop playing patsy with the constitution. And when people who are called Queen's Counsel, yes, are leading that, and when the chief advisors, this government has very poor legal advice, in my view. But when people who are supposed to defend the Constitution, in fact, invade the Constitution and derogate it, and call other people who have reservations supporters of criminality, when our blood is flowing just like anybody else's, the criminals have no discrimination. That is wrong, sir.
All right, well, answer me.
That is desperation.
Okay, let me agree with you on that. You answer me. when the Commissioner of Police, on behalf of the thousands of police, and the military leader, on behalf of the military, says to the Prime Minister, I want you to go to the nation and ask for 12 more days or 21 more days for us to finish the mapping up of some criminals that we find in an area. And the opposition, who must come along, says no. What do you think people are going to think?
Here's what I think you do.
Yeah.
Okay? First of all, I think you have to build a relationship of consensus with your opposition, so that in fact
That's what you should do.
Yes, hold on.
But
now.
let's,
But
let's,
they
deal,
have-
let's
no.
deal with what is.
No. What dealing with what is imperfect and unnecessarily
Okay.
so. There is no reason why the Vale Royal talks cannot be resumed now. There is no reason why the movement for consensus, political consensus in the society, especially, sir, over scourges like crime and COVID, cannot exist.
Ronnie, why don't you say should?
Should.
Because
No, but I. All right.
no, because
Sure.
people are trying to get it done, and it is not being done on both sides.
No, I beg your pardon. No, sir. The PNP has been ready to sit down at Vale Royal anytime. The government of Jamaica, the JLP government of Jamaica, will not do so. That is the truth, sir. There's no getting around it. They have to take the initiative.
You are suggesting to me that the leader of the PNP has asked the Prime Minister, let us have a meeting, and the Prime Minister said,
exactly. Yes, sir. I am suggesting that.
I'm going to check that out,
Yeah,
and I want to come back here with it.
Okay, and they have asked for cooperation on health, on crime. Yes. No.
No, but then you'll have to answer also that the Prime Minister has asked the leader of the opposition to support the Commissioner of Police call and the Major General call for an extension for a few days to continue the job.
First of all,
and the PNP said no.
Okay, sir.
Do you agree that that is?
No, because that's not been the call. The Prime Minister has stated clearly that he wants states of emergency to exist for as long as crime is at a level. Yes, and there are some of us within the opposition political party. There are some of us who are outside of that, who on principle say that is wrong.
Well, why don't you say we will go for 30 days full stop?
No,
Why didn't you say that?
You don't need the opposition for that.
Of course.
No, you don't. The government.
Oh, you mean that he can go back every
every time
Ronnie,
that's it. No, but
I wouldn't support that.
well, but you can end up supporting what so hurt you. Let me go a little. Let me change.
I want both sides in Parliament to agree with the request of the Commissioner of Police and the Major General and their team who are out there day and night
No, sir.
fighting the criminals.
Hold on, sir. I will do that for the limited period provided in the Constitution.
Okay.
And if you show me that you need a one extra period or something, I will go with you. I did so in the Parliament.
Right.
After that, don't count on me.
No. But after that, even if I come, you have to be satisfied that coming to you 3 or 4 or 5 times have the objective that you can see that it is
and that it is consistent with the Constitution.
Okay.
Yes, and when you lock up people, yes, and do not bring them before the courts. Yes,
No, well,
and
you're continuing to rub salt in my cut,
and I should.
And I said because I agree with you.
Okay, sir. And hold on now.
That was wrong.
But listen to what your Commissioner of Police says. Sure. He says we need to pick up certain people and then so that we can gather evidence against them. What a monstrous statement that is.
Yeah, but look at it practical.
Hello, it's practical.
Hold on,
No, listen.
Wait a minute. King George in a community. You can go in there, go pick him up. And nobody else in there can even look except they peep through the window. Much less to tell the police you know him. Ronnie, I have said on this program, and I've said it before to you, in every community, Tom, Dick, and Harry know the gunman. They hear the fire, and they know, hold on now, and they know who firing.
Yeah.
they cannot tell the police, because if they tell the police,
Yes.
the mama wipe out, then papa wipe out,
Yes.
then picnic
So
wipe
what
out.
we have found out now, sir,
Yes.
is that even when you put the man in jail,
Yes.
him can run the community same way.
Ex-
Even when him go in New York,
Exactly.
yes, him can make shot fire in St. Thomas or in Clarendon.
Criticize that
So
point, Ronnie.
I am absolutely doing so. You
How,
can't.
how that happen? How that is
You
happening?
cannot resile. You cannot resile from the principle of law.
Yes.
That a person has certain inalienable rights unless proven otherwise by a court of law.
So they have right to get telephone in prison?
No.
That way they can't run their business?
Absolutely not. No, sir. Absolutely not.
So I call the commissioner.
All I'm saying
Well,
is,
no. I said to the commissioner, are you telling me that in these days of technology, you can know when a man have a phone and dialing it?
Exactly.
You know what he said?
Oh,
Well, we get some information sometimes.
no, you know what happens? You know what happens? The government doesn't dare take on the prison service.
That's what?
Does not dare to take on the prison service because there are warders and others who are complicit with that. They have to be.
Explain that. So, a man is just
Hello,
asking
sir.
me.
Hello, sir.
What you mean? What you mean, Mr. Thwaites?
No, quite clear.
Yes.
Yes. That the people, just as in the community,
Yes.
you know who fire the shots.
Yes.
Within the prison, you know who have phone.
Okay. And you can't talk.
Why?
If you talk, your mother gone
No,
dead
no.
out there.
Well, hold on. Now. So the law provides, the regular law provides that if a person is suspected of being a mastermind or a criminal of any pedigree, you can detain that person
Yes.
for a period. Yes, and you take them before a judge, and you explain the situation is, and the judge makes a decision as to their as to their custody. Yes, I'm in favor of that. I am not in favor where the issue of a person's freedom or custody depends upon a policeman's whim
Yes. Well,
or a politician's whim.
And there is justification in your presentation. And there's also justification in others'
No, sir.
presentation.
No.
Hold on.
Let me.
Ronnie, when you say
Yes.
to me
Yes.
that you are a superintendent in the prison service,
Yes.
but you're so afraid that Tutu,
Yes.
that you know, say, his mother carry a gun at the food
Yes.
and some shots
Yeah.
in the apple,
Yes.
and you know him have a phone that him get in the pudding. But because you're afraid of him, and him such a bad man,
So what is? So you have no government then?
you should not be there.
Yeah, well, this is it.
You should not be
But
there. And if
absolutely.
you are caught, you should be put before the court
Yes, sir.
and be prison.
We're agreeing. We're agreeing. Yes, but where you have compromised yourself by allowing another prisoner to run his business. and
No, Ronnie, hold on. Because when it's you could answer that for me.
Yes, could I?
Yes, that I would allow a prisoner because him is a liberating prison.
No, but it's happening right now, sir. You know it. We don't want to call the name, but we know it. We know it. There's a person who is running his whole empire and putting out music, putting out all kinds of publicity, can get himself on foreign media. Yes.
Yes.
On United States media. From where? From the bowels of the General Penitentiary, Mr. Charles.
Yes, and you know who is in charge of them?
Yes, sir. Minister of National Security, sir.
My God, poor minister of
No,
national security.
not poor.
Poor minister of national
Hello,
security.
sir. Him run down the work. Just like you run down your work as minister, and I did too. so no. The buck has to stop somewhere, Charles.
I tell you, set up for me this morning. Like, whole week. You say me and him this morning. This morning.
I have another problem, and I don't like. I'm anxious to get this.
Yes.
Okay. Prime Minister Holness again.
Yes.
He has a press conference yesterday.
Yes.
And a very respected journalist, Andre Wright from the Gleaner, asks him a question about withholding government programs in the Maroon area, which it is announced is going to happen.
Who announced that?
Apparently, it was public knowledge. I can't say the absolute source. Okay? Prime Minister doesn't deny that.
Yes.
Prime Minister says correctly, in my view, look here, there's a pretension going on about the Maroons that is dangerous. Yes? These people are, some people within and without are saying that because of this treaty in the 18th century, they have a right, they're a sovereign state. Okay? And I am here as Prime Minister to say that that is a lot of nonsense. The treaty does not mean that. And it is impossible and wrong for any portion of Jamaica to seek to exempt itself and be a sovereign state.
Yes.
So far, Mr. Holness is correct in my view.
Yes.
And even in his very almost angry, if I saw the television clip, retort, that part of it is
somebody says the person looks strong. They say the anger in his front some his suit. So
well, no, well after they
but go ahead, finish what you're saying.
So that's fine. When two things I have wrong. One is, yes, he says we can't use public funds. You want me to use public funds to support that kind of behavior, that kind of position. He can't say that, sir.
Yeah, but hold on. If the position is wrong, he cannot support the position.
No.
No. If the position that is taken is wrong, he cannot use my money to support that position.
No, wait, sir, he can't do that.
Supporting the
hello, sir.
It doesn't mean not support the people.
No, but hi. If in fact there are public programs, yes, to fix road, to improve the school, to do the things that citizens of Jamaica have a right to expect of their government.
I don't think he could stop that.
Well, but
I would hold on. You are going to tell me that because of what is going on, we don't have to go into that.
No.
You are going to say to the children who are going to a school,
no,
and getting.
But this is exactly the point I'm making.
No.
My point is, if Mr. Holness,
I would hope.
Yes.
That is not what he says. I hope that's not what he means.
Hello, sir.
And I would beg him, please.
Yes.
Reconsider.
Because they are taxpayers too, you know.
Eh?
And if you follow Professor Clinton Hutton in the Gleaner this morning, he's saying what you're doing is playing entirely into their hands.
Yes.
Because this is what they're saying, that you have this unsatisfactory, discriminatory relationship. You have to be clear that they have no right to any special government. Mr. Curry is no Prime Minister of the compound state.
You need to tell Mr. Curry that.
Okay, sir. Well, I'm telling him right now and you're agreeing. But and the Prime Minister, in his own way, without calling the name, would do so. But it is very important that we clear that the people who are Maroons, the people who live in these districts, have as much right to public services as any other citizen.
And the police in Jamaica must have as much right
of course.
to go into area that
Of
Mr.
course.
Curry is saying he can have his men there.
No, and him can judge
if they do,
and he don't have
no police can come.
Exactly. But then
what kind of rubbish is that?
Exactly. And that is where I agree with the first point. And then the last point that where the Prime Minister is really wrong is that he asked the journalists, what kind of question you ask me? Are you crazy? Look, sir.
And the journalist had to say that. I would say, no, I'm not crazy.
Well,
and go on to ask.
Yes, sir. Go on. Well, no, case closed. Case closed. Verdict delivered. So what we're saying is, I'm not against the Prime Minister. All I'm saying is that he needs to be very mindful, as he knows. Yes, and I say this extremely respectfully. He needs to be very careful what he says and to recognize the implications of his words. All of us do.
So why don't you just say Mama's poem?
Tell me again, Mama's poem, Mama Charles.
If your foot slip, you can regain your balance. But if your tongue slip, you can never recall the word.
Exactly, sir.
So
there you
be
are.
Careful of what you say.
Yes. Well, here we go. Now, the important thing that is happening is that the children are going back to school.
Ronnie, when I heard you say that, I'm more, well, I feel better.
Yeah, man.
And you made a point. We're going to have some children get sick in school. I said that to you earlier. You said that reservation is made for a room
should be.
where they can isolate and they can take them out rather than close the school.
Yeah.
You know that I've been accepting as normal that you go to school. It is since this virus has hit, that I start to examine the importance of having children associate with one another, having leadership, teachers and students, and creating future generations.
Sure.
It is not just a man go to school, you know.
No.
So we have lost 2 years.
Yes, sir.
And indications are we're going to lose more time. And it just should not, well, can't say should not happen, it's happening. Let us hope that we can find a way to prevent it from continuing.
Well, let me ask you this. Yours is a respective, mature voice. The parent who is listening to us this morning,
Yes.
the grandparent or the auntie overseas who is helping a child locally to go to school. There is a balance, is there not, Mr. Charles, between the health of the child
Yes.
and all of the benefits of going to school?
Yes.
What are the principles that should be at work here? I know of a person, a young woman who has a child, and she's torn. Help her this morning. She's saying, my child is asthmatic, and I am really afraid of him go monks up at his school, even though the school tells me that they are making provisions for the protocols.
Yes.
I know that he needs to go to school. He's entering a new school now, and he has so far he has not been there. He don't know what the classroom look like. He don't know his teachers. He never touched his teacher. How should she make up her mind?
She should ask for an opportunity to meet its teacher.
Yeah.
And she should get that opportunity and go to school either in the evening, Thursday evening, or
Right.
early in the morning, teachers there, and discuss the matter. First, she should get a letter from her doctor
Yes.
that my child is asthmatic, or my child has some complaint
Right.
which I am uncomfortable with that child going. But you should discuss this, because even though the child is asthmatic or sick, the child need that education. And if the child can go there and don't get worse, or communicate that to others, then we need to get leadership to give that. And the teacher,
Yeah.
may say sometimes the headmaster
Yeah.
of the school, the principal of the school, should have a meeting and examine the situation.
Well, no, that's exactly what sound advice in my view. This is what I hoped you would give. No, here is this. It involves an individual decision. It involves a balancing of concerns. But I supported the Prime Minister at his Power of Faith speech last week, where he said, look, if I paraphrase him correctly, almost the first important thing to do right now, the most important thing, is to get the children back into school. And people must not fight him down for that.
No,
That
but
is
hold
necessary.
on. I'm not fighting him down.
No.
But I am saying
There's
to the
care.
PM, if Miss Birdie has a child and she has been advised by her doctor that this child has some sort of illness, Miss Birdie, instead of keeping the child at home, should have a discussion with the principal, and arrangements can be made, because you have said it, Prime Minister have said it, and because the two of you are such big guys, I'm coming along with you that the child must get an education to get away from some of the problems that are likely to come.
Okay. Well, I think that is a fair situation, because this morning in Jamaica, as it turns out in the United States, different conditions are applying in different big cities. Chicago is different from Atlanta.
Yes.
For example, we saw people are making a decision. The decision has to do with the safety of transportation. It has to do with the safety in the classroom.
Yes.
It has to do with the safety on the playfield.
Yes.
And the important juncture that I think we've reached is that up to now we've been saying, look here, the health situation is so grave that face-to-face school is out of the question.
Yes.
We have now, despite Omicron,
Yes.
got to a different position.
Yes.
And I'm anxious to explore with you, for the benefit of our listeners, what it means, which is the doctors are saying to us and the political leaders are affirming, that we are going to have to live with COVID for a long time, sir.
Yeah, but Ronnie, we have lived with most of the viruses. That is that a plural? I mean,
Okay,
right?
enough.
That we have that has confronted us
Sure.
since we were born.
Yeah,
When every one of us have a scar on the left hand
yeah,
that we get our vaccination.
sure. Small
And we were vaccinated for certain reasons.
Yes.
And as I said on many occasions, when you go into school, the teacher says, show me your vaccination paper, you can't come in.
Yes.
And people who are saying they're not vaccinating today, them still have the big scar. And I said to somebody, if you never have your scar, the teacher will say, it dead, you have to go take it again.
Yeah.
You know what mean?
Yeah.
You know what that mean?
You're gonna have the vaccine never catch.
But you know country talk too.
But then, sir, look at what we see in the Gleaner this morning, where the doctors, at least the Medical Association of Jamaica, has concluded that an improved vaccination strategy can only be beneficial in the fifth iteration of the outbreak. Quote, vaccination will have no effect on the fourth wave at this moment. He says to the government, yes, that rather than pushing increased vaccination, which is what we are doing, he says that there's urgent need for greater enforcement of the coronavirus safety protocols.
Now, what is that? What's the difference with the safety protocol on the getting the vaccine?
The tablet, the mask, the social distancing. These are the things that will make the difference, according to him.
But that's easier.
Yeah.
Wearing the mask, separating the children,
Yeah.
pushing the chairs around. I'm sure that parents cannot and would not object to that. What they're objecting to is sticking the so-called 666 in them hand.
Dr. James says the nightly curfew should be revisited to reflect longer hours, beginning at 8 p.m. and ending at 5 a.m. The current curfew runs from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. He said consideration ought to be given to lessening the time for quarantine and isolation for healthcare workers, arguing that a number of colleagues out because of quarantine or isolation is nearing crisis proportion.
Are you in agreement with that?
I don't know, so I yield to the doctors in this regard. But what I'm very sensitive to, and again sympathetic with the Prime Minister when he says, look, we can't have continuing lockdowns. Now that is an element of lockdown. It's not the whole. It's not a complete lockdown. Yes. But if you widen the curfew hours, you are in fact curtailing people's movement more than has been thought necessary up to now.
And you're curtailing the economic development because you lock down stores, you lock down commerce. You're just damaging everything.
So in conclusion, before we take our break on the early rise, what are we saying? We are saying that, in fact, a balance is needed. We must not.
Good word.
Yeah.
A balance is needed.
And we mustn't get vexed with each other when we disagree on the levels of balance.
And we must not blame each other.
No.
We must drop the politics.
Perfectly right.
That's what you're saying, right?
I am saying that.
So therefore, it's not one side, you know.
No.
Because one side says, "I support it," and for them side clap.
Yeah, but.
And the other side says, you're not supported, and for them side clap.
The big question, the universal question that we will have to ask Pearnel Charles again after the break, is that this political impasse which rises in your mind as determining so many situations, that is Babylon now, you know. We have to get rid of it. How will we do that?
I don't know. The bridge will have to carry us right across from Australia to South Africa, back to Britain and to Canada, and come to Jamaica, because it is all over the place.
What is that only raises the question, what is the future of the human race?
Oh, God.
When we come back on the Bridge 99. This is the Bridge 99. This is Early Rise with the Honourable Pearnel Child Sr. and myself. We're talking about the affairs of the nation. We're trying to bring together divergent views, have some respectful consensus. If we have to differ, we'll do so, but we'll do so with the sense that we're moving forward, that we're not at each other's throats. That's the way of the future of Jamaica. It's a new beginning in 2022. So, sir, if the politics is not helping us towards this new consciousness, this new beginning, yes, why have it?
Well, the politics is not 100% bad, you know.
No, I don't. I agree with that.
So there's some good in it.
Yeah.
And there's a poem too about all the good and all the bad,
Yeah.
and what could happen if we put them together. We'll get this and this. I forget. I'm going to learn to come back.
Yeah.
But the truth is this, that we cannot do without the politics because it helps to run the system.
Yes.
What we are saying is to get rid of the distraction in the various areas on both sides. Both sides.
Clearly, one hand can't clap.
Because I told you that in the question of we become an independent country, as independent as others would like to call it,
Yes.
is because there is a vote catching part of it. And that is my concern about this election that we have to have.
Well, you see,
that we're going to have a problem with it.
But this is why I am trying so hard, to persuade my colleague that we need to, in the reform of our constitution, to move towards proportional representation, whereby getting the vote will be important, but it will not be the supreme test, because I know even if I don't get the vote, I will still have a part in the governance.
Yes.
Even if you have a greater part because of the number of votes you did get. Yes? Because, and here it is now, you have a number of people.
I understand it, you know, Ronnie, is that this is not the popular political internationally.
No, but, but we're talking principle on this.
Yes.
And I, you know what irks me? When I hear so many people of high repute, of well-thinking Jamaicans saying... Yes. Saying what we need to do, for example, is to choose a cabinet of experts, people of competence who are not elected. So what you're doing when you say that is, it appears that what you're saying is, I'm supporting competence from whatever source. That's a reasonable point. But what you're also saying is that the people who are representatives are probably a bunch of tribal cretins who you can't trust.
They're not competent.
And they're not competent. And
they don't represent.
And I reject, and they don't, I reject that. Now, my view is that being governed by those who are representatives, those I vote for, yes, is very, very important. That is an important element of democracy. And I don't wish to engage the view that all of us who have been involved or were involved are going to be so tribal and so incompetent that we can't be trusted.
Ronnie, that is one of the reasons why a certain sector of the population are not voting anymore. Because they say those who are voting is more than us, so we don't business with it. Yeah. But in the final analysis, we should recall that the voting situation is what the kind of democracy that we have requires.
Yeah, but what the element of the voting that we have
and the majority, the people who get the majority of the vote is the leaders in the system.
Well, yes, sir. But then the winner take all is where we lose the game. That's where we lose the game.
That's the kind of democracy that we have. And you want a change in that.
I want a change in that regard.
In what make up the democracy that we have.
Yeah.
You would like us, let us be practical.
Yeah.
We have the private sector in Jamaica.
Right.
Consists of the big business and some small business, right? We have other areas that are not participating as far as we are concerned in the street politics. When you go to a meeting and you can see who jump in, who want to vote. And people are saying, make them go on with them thing. But in the final analysis, it produces a government.
Yeah, but then what does the government do? Producing a government is only the first step. What the government is going to do, what will influence
What the government
them.
is trying to do in this instance, they go back to those who probably did not vote or did not come to any meeting or indicate they want to vote and say, you have to send representative into the government.
Well, what
so
I'm,
you come through the Senate
what I'm
or you
asking-
come through some of the
but-
committees.
No, but that that doesn't happen. What happens is that defeated candidates and special interests get put in the Senate, and the committees don't work. So that really doesn't solve the problem. My view is that you need as many people who are representing different divergent groups in the society, with a preponderance of those who represent the majority, the ordinary voter, yes, to come together and work out a reasonable consensus, whether it is about COVID or crime or corruption or economic development. And then you get a different level of acceptance. Because I can say then, I have a part in this. The German model right now is, to me, a very good one. What has happened is that one tendency came out with a majority in the elections, and they have formed a coalition with 2 or 3 other tendencies, and they have cobbled together a government. That is likely to be more representative than any one tendency. In Jamaica, we have 2 dominant political parties, yes? Some say they are opposite sides of the same coin. I'm saying that there is talent on both sides, that there is merit to having both sides involved in governance rather than at perpetual war with each other.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to take some time to sell that, because we have 3 forces. We have the PNP, the JLP, and others.
Yeah, but the others...
And others, there is a majority.
No.
When you look at 38% of the people voting.
No, yeah, but the majority of those who fall into the cynical, the non-voters,
Yes.
are because they do not approve of or see any good purpose in their lives and for the lives of the community of the present system.
So if they are the majority, why they don't put up something?
Well, my view is that they don't, because they don't see any way of breaking the hegemony of the present order.
But you support that?
No, I was part of the New Beginning movement, which tried to do that, yes, and we found that we could not, given the history, given the culture, make any significant inroads into the electoral system, which is why I moved from that posture, which was certainly to the different from and to the left of the PNP, into the People's National Party. Maybe you didn't have the same progression as you've told us, but the key thing is, look at it right now, man. Go back to your own argument about the player forces that are affecting, whether it is state of emergency, whether it is the stanching of corruption, whether it is the devolution of land, whether it is the provision of jobs. Yes, and the government with the best intention, with 49 seats, can't make it happen, because the people do not accept that the present structure of politics.
What do you call the people?
The ordinary people, sir.
No.
The ordinary people.
But the government represents a large portion of the
No, sir. No, sir. That is a tragedy. The government, the present government represents about 20% of the electorate. When you consider who voted, who voted one side and the other.
What percentage did the PNP represent?
Less than that.
Okay, so those who form what we democratically accept as governance, government, represent how much percent of the population that should select a government?
A very small percentage.
So something is wrong with who?
Something is wrong
with who?
Something is wrong with the system.
No. The system is created by who?
By us.
So those people who sit and criticize, that are not joining the PNP or the JLP in their street search for a government, they don't vote. And as soon as you form a government, they become the biggest critique They want to tell you how to run the government, yet they will not vote. They will not say PNP or JLP or put up a. They will not. Why they don't put up a government?
So what
why
you-
they don't put up a party?
No,
Why they don't vote?
Because you and I won't let them.
Eh?
You and I won't
No,
let
no,
them.
no, 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 no. Anybody who wants to form a
Hold on,
party in
no,
Jamaica,
Mr. Charles.
the statement is there as to how to do it.
No. That is true. But you
But
know.
they sit back and fund the PNP and the JLP to go there,
Uh-huh.
and they don't go.
So if you have so artfully constructed that impasse,
Yes.
what happens next? We legitimize the minority government
No.
because they have 49 seats in the
Yeah, man, no love to
20.
talk about the Constitution, you know.
Yeah.
The Constitution directs that what we are doing.
Clearly,
is
and
the
I'm
way
talking
to go.
about constitutional change.
Oh, well, then you have to seek change.
Yes, and I'm saying that the way to the path to the unity that Prime Minister Holness says we need in order to fight crime, COVID, all of these things can best be secured
Yes.
by a system of proportionate representation, rather than a system
let us define it
of the winner take all.
Let us define it from the man who just called us from his bed and said,
Sure.
what I mean by that.
What it means is that if 400,000 or 600,000 people vote in Jamaica,
Yeah.
and the JLP gets 350,000 of those votes, that they will form the majority in the
Parliamentary democracy that we have.
Right, and the PNP will get a proportion of the in relation to the number of votes secured, and that a cabinet will be put together based upon the participation of both sides
What about those who don't vote?
proportionally.
What about if the PNP and the JLP only get 38% of the population who can select a government?
First of all,
what about the others?
Yes, first of all, they have forfeited their right to make that choice. But I believe that less will do so if they if they see a situation which ends up in more consensus, more cooperation, rather than in enmity.
But wouldn't they get that seeing easier if they participate?
No, because what happens is they don't believe that any one side by itself can achieve can overcome the developmental crises that we have in Jamaica.
You know what I hear a man just say a while ago?
What him say?
Say them stay outside and want to run the thing. And although the two go in there and come, they don't want to come in, the voting process, but they want to run the thing.
Well, in fact, the sad thing is that it's a half-truth what he says, because they're right.
It's half-truth?
Yes, I tell you why it's a half-truth. Because many people who don't vote, yes, particularly those with resources, provide the hundreds of millions of dollars that is needed for either the JLP or the PNP to run an election. So that's what.
So,
and they recognize they
they give that account to their conscience.
They give it according to what they think is their best opportunity.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
They will read the way the wind is blowing.
So they are represented.
Huh? They're represented. No,
they're represented.
No, that's the wrong verb. What they do is control. What they do is control.
So
yes?
hold on, let's stop right there then.
Yes, sir.
If they stay outside of the politics, but they support the politics to go on as it is, so that they can control whoever wins.
Yes, sir.
Where is your formula?
My formula is that they can't control it if there's no alternative that they can turn to, because that alternative is engaged in the very process of governance that is more likely to be representative of more of the people, I would say all of the people, than any one side ever can be.
Where would they come in if We accept your formula.
Sure, I accept.
Where is that
I
protected?
believe, yes,
Yeah,
and
where
I'm
would
no,
that come
I'm
in?
no, I confess not to be an expert on these matters in terms of looking at comparable situations all over the world.
Yeah.
But I believe you can make space for special interests, even in the Caribbean. My understanding is the Trinidadian Senate, for example, allows for the representation of various. The president can appoint persons from various interest groups. We can provide for that. The key thing is, Pearnel, that isn't it clear before our eyes, yes, that the public of Jamaica is not united around the cause of governance, around the cause of development.
Was there a time then there were?
Probably not, but if you want good.
Well, there was a time when 80% voted.
Yes.
At least one election.
Sure. And if
You know why they did.
yes,
Okay.
and therefore, but the situation is not that now, and it is extremely important to engage every person of goodwill who has an interest in their well-being, that of their children and grandchildren. Yes, in order that we can have this group. We on this station are reaching out, are we not, to the people in the diaspora? Yes, we are depending upon them, but we deny them full civil rights in Jamaica. How can that be?
Well,
How
Ronnie,
can that be maintained?
Well-
When I left Parliament, Mr. Charles, beg you again,
Good.
I left a motion on your order paper, sir,
Yes.
asking for this provision whereby people who are citizens of the United States, Jamaicans, are prevented from sitting in the Houses of Parliament. It was never discussed.
And Ronnie, you have my full support because guess what?
Uh-huh.
Both my son and daughter,
Yeah.
both of them are now members of Parliament.
Yes.
One in St. Thomas,
Yeah,
one in
one in
Clarendon.
Clarendon.
Both were citizens
And they had to give
of
it
the
up.
United States.
Yeah.
And they gave up
Yeah.
their citizenship.
Uh-huh.
Pearnel was born in America.
Look at that. No, all I'm saying is that first of all, I respect the sacrifice that they've made.
Well, I
But
don't
they
know.
sh-
I
they-
don't know if I had encouraged them, right?
Yeah. Well,
Based on certain things
but,
that
but,
I don't
but, but
know.
look at what you're saying. Look at what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you should have been able to say, yes,
I'm so glad that they
I'm
did.
so glad.
Yeah.
Yes. And why do we place that kind of hoop in front, an obstacle in front of other people who could help to enrich our nation?
I want to make my position
Please
clear.
do.
that
Want
I
to
am
hear you.
Totally opposed
Yeah.
to this nonsense,
Yeah.
which says a man in South Africa,
Yeah.
Australia,
Yeah.
and Canada
Yeah.
can come to Jamaica and see a white man
Say, yeah.
and live a few weeks
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
become prime minister.
Yeah.
But the Jamaican
Yeah.
in America
Right.
and Canada
Who build up the social security.
who
Yeah. Send back the remittances.
become a citizen
Say, become a citizen.
cannot come back to Jamaica
Come
and
back and
vote.
Well,
I
he can vote, but he can't run. He can't sit in Parliament.
Cannot sit,
Yeah.
cannot become a representative of the people,
of the people.
through the parliamentary system.
Yes, sir.
Now, to me,
Yeah.
well, I was told,
Progress.
I know that,
progress on the early rise on the bridge. Listen
and
to
I
Pearnel Charles.
know that Bruce Golden
Yes.
was in favor of removing
Yes.
that.
Yes.
I say nonsense.
Yes.
Because Ronnie,
So-
we have some good people abroad who could come back to Jamaica and make massive contributions.
So look what we're doing on this segment of this program today. After all of the discussion and the twist and turn, which we hope will have been informative to the people listening, we come to a conclusion at least on this one point. This is in urgent need of change. The situation is going to get more attenuated, is it not, Mr. Charles?
Yes.
Because more and more people are going away, and more of our most educated people, of the people who, on the surface of it, would most likely be strong representatives, have a great deal to contribute, are making that choice daily.
And when we speak to people from Britain,
Yes.
Canada,
Yes.
and United States, the kind of people that can come in on the bridge,
yes.
right? What massive contribution
Big
they
point.
could make
Big point. And yet,
to Jamaica.
And what we are not
and yet
saying,
they can't come here and become a part of the government
Well, they want to
through election.
Yes, sir. So Bridge Nation, this morning, people in the diaspora, you have an ally. We are in favor of a removal of that provision.
Totally. We'll
Right.
be happy to see that removed so that they can participate in governance because they send a lot of money to to both
Well, how
PNP
you
and
mean?
JLP, you know.
But
They send to their family.
Not
and
only
they
that,
send to the
but
community,
yes,
their
so-
schools.
So what we're saying to them is a contempt. We're saying send your money, but we're not going to make you have any you can't come in the yard.
No.
Yes, and we went through that foolishness a few years ago. Where who was it? It was Warmington. It was Shahini, God rest her soul. It was Gregory Mayer. It was Darrell Vaz.
Yes.
All of them had to be excluded. We had to go through all of that foolishness.
And have to rerun their seats.
Yes, in order to be able.
Spending millions of dollars.
Yes. On all of that, unnecessary, because we were unclear on this point. Today we're clear, and it's time for us to bid goodbye to our listeners this morning.
Already?
Yes, indeed.
My Lord.
Thanks to Athena. LaFane, get well soon. Yes, all of the staff here. Richie, Audley, blessings to you. For
And give me a chance to say
EarlyRise.
Happy New Year to all my friends in the United States and in Canada,
Yes.
where we went to school,
Yes.
and my family in Britain,
Yes.
and my would-be friends in Australia and South Africa.
Yeah.
In the
Well, no, you see,
diaspora.
but that's the subject for tomorrow morning's early rise, because look at the cosmopolitanism of Chief Pearnel, Charles,
Yes.
and yet we treat them so unequally. That can't be right. Thanks so much for your company today. Richie B comes next. Stay tuned to The Bridge 99.